Welcome everyone, Costin here with my campaign overview guide for Kroq-Gar of the Lizardmen. Kroq-Gar is as generic to a Lizardman Lord as you will possibly get. The reason behind this is he's all about the Saurus, buffing the Saurus, giving them benefits, having upkeep benefits with them as well. Faction-wide benefits, he gets a minus 15% upkeep benefit for armies led by Saurus Old Blood. So only Old Blood Saurus, which are a Lord choice that you can recruit, will get that kind of benefit. It is a fairly substantial benefit, though of course it will limit your potential with other Lords. Saurus buildings grant additional bonuses to Saurus Scar Veterans and Saurus Old Bloods. 1% weapon strength per rank for Saurus Scar Veterans and Saurus Old Bloods, and 30% experience benefits for those Lords and those heroes. And when we're talking about the benefits that they do provide, if we're looking at this, we're looking at recruit rank +1 for Saurus Scar Veterans and Saurus Old Bloods, and then going into recruit rank +2. So he is playing the generic Lizardman style, which is focused on getting a lot of Saurus in your army and steamrolling the enemy with them. Now, Saurus aren't necessarily the best units in the Lizardman roster, though given the benefits that Kroq-Gar does have with them, it is probably the best choice for this campaign. They aren't necessarily the best units on the campaign either, though they do have decent armor and pretty good leadership, so they'll do decently well when it comes to auto-resolve. You'll also start with a skink priest, who will provide you scouting and, of course, magical abilities when it comes to your armies. Though you don't have a skink chief, which would have been better because of the replenishment benefit. Hit or miss when it comes to that one. You also start with the Golden Tower, which has a tier 2 Saurus spawning pool. And you can also start building the Golden Tower of the Gods. That's going to take 2 turns. That's going to give you a substantial benefit in income and control in the region, as well as an 8% research benefit. So if you're playing with Kroq-Gar, you want to focus with Saurus. He gets a minus 15% upkeep benefit for his army. I don't believe this stacks with that one because it shouldn't. 25% ambush success chance, and unit experience gain for Saurus warriors and Cold One rider units. When it comes to his skill line, he doesn't really have a special skill line like most Legendary Lords do have. He does have certain skills like upkeep for Saurus and Cold One units, so he can get minus 20% upkeep for his army. Physical resistance, various skills along the way, some powerful mount options, Cold One, Horned One, and then of course the Carnosaur mount. Then he has various benefits that you can get for his army against different races, though many of them are not necessarily going to be useful during the course of your campaign. I probably would get the Obliterate the Undead one because you may end up fighting quite a few undead. Getting the Skaven one could be useful, but you're not going to fight Skaven outside of the very early game. Let me explain how that situation works. So you start over here near the Golden Tower, near this settlement in the Golden Pass. There's a Skaven army here, and then there's a Skaven settlement. Then there's more Skaven to the north and the south, though the ones to the south you could ignore because Teclis is likely going to wipe them out. Here are your choices in the campaign. You start here on the eastern side of the Southlands. To the west is Tic-Tac-Toe, who may actually be an annoying prick and actually declare war on you. I don't know what's up with Tic-Tac-Toe. He's very aggressive against pretty much every single one of his neighbors. Though you might also be able to make an alliance with him. Though you could also argue that you can take the entire territory. Now, when we're looking at Kroq-Gar, he can take deserts, savanna, and jungles. So he can take the entirety of Khemri, Araby, and of course, Lustria. That is his home ground. So here are your choices in the campaign. You destroy the Skaven army early on. Manual battles all around in the first turn. So manual battle here, you win that, trying to reduce your casualties, then take the settlement. You should be able to do so given the army composition you have, given Kroq-Gar's own power, Cold One, Spear Riders, and Feral Stegodon. You take the capital, the provincial capital. Yes, having a siege early on with an army that may be lacking in some departments isn't the greatest situation, but you take the settlement, you've established control over a province. After that, you can either move north or you can move south. If you move north and take the entire kingdom of the beasts, you probably won't stop going north. You should take out Khalida, you should take the entirety of the Crater of the Walking Dead, get a major economic benefit there. The downside, of course, of this is this will put you in contact with Clan Moors, though you may be able to wipe them out with relative ease and relieve pressure on the dwarves, make some alliances with them. Hell, maybe you can even make an alliance with Forik, like, say for instance, you take Devil's Backbone, give it to Forik, you can make a deal with him. Once you've secured the situation here, one way or another, maybe you go after Clan Moors yourself, maybe you just figure out, well, Lami has a provincial capital, Queek is not going to risk attacking it when he's got many other foes to fight, and he does have orcs, he does have Karak Azul, he's got a lot of threats, and he tends to lose, by the way, in the campaign in the long term, like after like 40 turns or so, Queek is going to be in dire straits. But you can go north, you can then take the Devil's Backbone, give it to Forik, secure your northern flank. And then you can either head directly to Camry, or you can sweep down south. There's an argument to be made about going south first. I would not go to war against Teclis, for the simple reason that Teclis is going to end up in a fight with Kairos, and it is in your interest that Teclis hold Down's Landing and fights Kairos, so you don't have to do so, so you can expand across the territory. Again, you can go in the Kingdom of the Beasts, because I'm pretty certain that the Skaven over here are control it. So eliminate that threat before it becomes too much of a problem. That should be your early game goal. And then either go against Khalida or go into the jungles of the gods and then go after Khalida. But I would still eliminate Khalida, take her entire province. Once all of that's sorted, take the entirety of the Southlands, the jungles over here, and then, well, pretty much go to war against everyone one at a time, like Volkmar, Manfred, if he's still alive by the point to arrive, etc. Take control over the entirety of Camry and the Southlands. Either force the Tic-Tac-Toe to capitulate or wipe him out, and you'll gain a significant strong point in the south here, which will form the breadbasket of your empire. Should you be worried about Skarbrand? Not necessarily. So I'd argue Skarbrand himself has a lot of issues in his campaign, and Forik, if you make a deal with him, Forik will do quite well to counter Skarbrand's potential. And besides, by the time you've actually taken Camry and Skarbrand might be an issue, he's going to be under a lot of pressure himself. The real threat might come from Clan Moors, from Queek, but I wouldn't be too worried about Skarbrand himself. Once you've taken the entirety of the Southlands and Camry and Araby, you can then hop on the sea, go into Lustria, and go help your fellow Lizardmen. When we're looking at victory conditions in the campaign, your goal is to eliminate Manfred, the Skaven factions around you, the Leafcutter tribes, the Greenskins over here, as well as the Silver Host. Though Khalida will eventually eliminate the Silver Host on her own. Your long-term campaign victory conditions do require you to eliminate the Bloody Hands, the Harbinger of Disaster, the Oracles of Tzeentch, as well as the Poxmakers of Nurgle. Well, here's how to view the situation here. Out of these factions, the only ones that actually have a good chance of survivability are the Poxmakers and Oracles of Tzeentch. Like, Kairos could take the entirety of the Southern Chaos Wastes. If that does happen, you're going to be in for a hell of a fight. Teclis will not be able to stop him. But between Teclis having... Like, if you can take the Jungle of the Gods very quickly and Kingdom of the Beast, that will relieve a lot of pressure off Teclis and allow him to focus on Kairos. The problem for Teclis, the reason Kairos becomes so powerful in a lot of campaigns is he obliterates the Chaos factions here, and he tends to do better in the out-resolve matchup against Oxyatl. In a regular battle, Oxyatl should annihilate him, but that's not how the AI operates. So if Teclis is free, he's likely going to go to war against Kairos. You might need to give him the Jungle of the Gods just to appease him, give him an economic heart, or you might not have to do so. But if Teclis isn't under pressure from the Skaven here in the Jungles of the Gods, then he should be able to freely deal with Kairos, or keep him in check, provide Kairos with enough of a challenge that Oxyotl shows up with his armies and wipes him out. What you do after is really up to you, but you might eventually have to deal with Nurgle, though it is quite a distance away, and generally speaking, Nurgle does survive a decent length of time, but Nurgle also tends to lose the campaign eventually. The sole reason Nurgle survives for as long as possible, though, is because Gortz is going to end up in a war with Greasus, then Grimgor is going to show up, but eventually even Nurgle will be wiped out. So you shouldn't really be worried about wiping out any of these factions in the long term, though depending on how fast you're going in a campaign, you might be tempted to just send armies to deal with Nurgle and potentially deal with Siege. I wouldn't worry about Scarbrand or the Bloody Hands. The Bloody Hands actually, more often than not, tend to lose the fight that they have on their hands. Because what ends up happening in a lot of campaigns, either the dwarves from either Forgrim wipes the Bloody Hands out, or Belegar just takes control over the entirety of the Border Princes, and then he wipes him out. Or even Malagor wipes him out, and then Malagor in turn gets wiped out. Scarbrand can be a bit hit or miss. Depends on what happens to Forik. Like, if Forik isn't having to fight someone else, then Forik will beat the crap out of Scarbrand. But if Forik is occupied, then Scarbrand can survive for a decent period of time. Manfred, I've never seen Manfred survive in any legendary campaign, because Manfred ends up fighting both Cetra and Volkmar, and one of them would be enough to hold him in check. Both of them at the same time, it's too much for him. He tends to get wiped out. What tends to happen in Araby, by the way, is Archon takes out Rapans, but then he gets involved in a never-ending war between himself, Volkmar, and Cetra. That's the kind of situation you want to take advantage of. Speaking about Lustria, though, for a while there's going to be a fight between the Cult of Sotek, Itza, and Lord Skrolk, but generally Lord Skrolk ends up losing that fight because of the weight of numbers of the Lizardmen bearing down on him. Like, Lord Skrolk can take the entirety of Lustria very easily if you're actually playing him, but when he's played by the eye, he ends up generally losing that engagement. You may want to end up in Lustria faster, so you actually have something to fight there, territory to occupy, alliances to be made. You might not wish to wait to delay the advancing there, even if it means that some of your territories here might be under threat from Kairos or some other factions. You might want to head to Lustria as quickly as possible. And that's all there is really with Kroq-Gar. Focus on the Saurus, maybe get the dinosaurs to support them, but really you do get a lot of benefits to Saurus Lords, to Saurus Heroes. Take advantage of that upkeep benefit, at least for the early game armies. Once you get a very strong and powerful economy, that's when you can barter with other lords, like using the Rite of Awakening for the Slan Mage Priests, or going with the Kroq-Gar agents or the Red-Crested Skink Chiefs for the various benefits that they do provide. Costin here signing out. Don't forget to subscribe, like, enable notifications, and stay tuned for more.